Hi, hello, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do something a little bit different, and we are going to go over some research that I have been doing on my ketovore / carnivore challenge. So again, what that is I am doing 60 days of me keeping my total carbs under about 20 grams a day. So I wanted to really understand why so many people are having success on this diet. Now, I went into this challenge hoping that I would help my inflammation, lose some weight. I am 286 at 6'1", and so far 29 days in, I'm feeling pretty good. It feels like something that I can do 98% of the time and not worry about it. Now that I'm off the sugar cravings and I am in ketosis, it's just gotten to a point where I'm doing really good. So I got really curious as to why. Everyone talks about, ketones being good for you and blah, 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 blah. And I took a few days to research what is ketogenesis, what does being keto mean, what are ketones, what does that all mean? And I quickly got pretty frustrated because a lot of the videos and the articles that I found were either so technical jargon heavy that I was having a hard time understanding as someone who is like a layperson. I have no medical background. I am not anything. Do not take any of my videos as nutrition advice. I am just doing a study with an N of 1 to see how my particular chronic illnesses work. So after being frustrated, I kind of decided that I was going to do this series because if somebody stumbles across my videos after doing the same search as I did, and they can have a base understanding like I do from these videos, I wanted to give to kind of put that out there. So I really started out with what is ketogenesis. Now I do have my notes, so if I'm looking down, that's why. So ketogenesis is defined as a metabolic process where the body produces ketone bodies, primarily in the liver, for an alternate energy source when glucose is scarce. So there's a whole big process that I don't necessarily understand that goes into ketogenesis and what your body does with it, based on what I can understand. And if you are a medical professional and understand, and I'm wrong, please correct me. But if your body is, say for example, a diesel truck, you're going to want to take care of it. Your body can do amazing things. It is a powerhouse when you fuel it correctly. Now, glucose, which comes from carbs and sugar in your body, is like gasoline. So when you put gasoline in a diesel engine, it might run for a little bit, but you're gonna have a whole bunch of idiot lights getting turned on and error codes being thrown, and eventually it's going to break down. And when you're talking about a human body, that breaking down is chronic inflammation, it's chronic fatigue, it's type 2 diabetes, it's worsening of cancers, and dementia, and Alzheimer's, and all of these things that just the body rebels after a while. But when you go low carb, you're now putting diesel fuel into your truck engine. which in this metaphor would be the ketones. So you're now running your system on the preferred method, the method that will keep your body sustained for a million miles. Now, that is not to say that it is a cure-all, end-all, be-all. No. Like, for me, I have cerebral palsy after having a stroke in childhood. I have degenerating discs in my spine, and I have POTS syndrome. So I have a lot of chronic illnesses. They're still there, but the symptoms are starting to lessen. I have a few mental health stuff as well, and that is also starting to lessen. So what does all of this mean? So the body is consistently making ketones, especially when fasting or while we're asleep. So whenever you do like a 24, 48 hour fast or water fast or whatever, your body is switching over to running on ketones, which is why you drop 5 to 6 pounds, is because that is all inflammation and it's all just water weight. So you're now running on ketones until you introduce glucose. So every single cell in your body that has a mitochondria, which to my knowledge is just about every single one, prefers to run on ketones. It will run on sugar, but it works so much better on ketones. Now, there is an argument that says, well, like your brain needs glucose. You are correct, sir. It does need glucose. However, 1/3 of your brain's daily requirement is glucose. 2/3 is protein and ketones. So even with something as critical as your brain, you can 100% function in ketosis. Why? Because when you're not influxing your body on sugar, your liver is going to take some of your fat, convert it into glucose, and send that glucose where it needs to go. Your body is literally built in with fail-safes to get everything that it needs intrinsically that aren't like essential amino acids that you can get through a proper human diet. So keto bodies are, ketone bodies, I apologize, are primarily made in your liver, which is where, the excess glucose is made. There's a lot of good things that happen in the liver. Hormones and ketosis is really interesting. So ketone bodies are upregulated, which means they are increasing activity by hormones like glucagon, cortisol, thyroid, and insulin, primarily insulin. So your body really likes to find that balance, and it is going to adjust everything else to run optimally. And like I said, the brain can get 2/3 of its requirements to function based on ketones. Basically, every single organ in your body can, and in my opinion, from what I'm learning, should be running on ketones. Now, again, I'm not a doctor, it's not medical advice, but I am feeling so much better. And as an N of 1 study, I'd say so far, almost 30 days in, it's going pretty good. So with that tiny base, what is the keto diet? So the keto diet shifts the body's fuel source from fat and carbs to ketones that are made from your stored fat. So when you are taking in carbs and sugar, your insulin is going to spike because you are now flooded your system. You now have free sugar just floating around, and your body really doesn't like that. It's super irritating. So your insulin is going to increase to shove all of that sugar into the cells. And what isn't used, which is most of it, is stored as fat, which is why we are fat, which is why I am fat, because I am a carb addict. 100% realize and recognize that I am addicted to carbs and sugar. So when you do low carb, and that is really going to depend body to body. Like I said, keto is typically between 20 and 50 grams of carbs a day. That's typically the threshold. And you can flip your body into ketosis. Now, there are some people like me who really need 25 grams or less. My mother, for example, who does keto to regulate her diabetes, if she has more than about 18 to 20 grams of carbs a day, her body is out of ketosis. So she keeps it super low carb to manage her stuff. So instead of when your body takes in sugar, it is going to use the sugar first. So you're not actually pulling from your fat stores. You're pulling from what you're eating. And when your insulin tanks after doing its job, your body is going to start craving more sugar because now you're running out of energy. It's already put everything that it can into fat storage, and now it has nothing to burn. So that's when you're like, oh, I'm feeling a little peckish. I need a snack. Or I'm going to go chug a ridiculous amount of soda or whatever. 100% guilty of doing exactly that. Or boredom eating, or you're just not paying attention and whoops, gone, the entire bag of chips. Your body's feeding on that, which, like I said, going back to the car metaphor, it will work for a time, but eventually you're going to have health problems. It might be 40 years down the road, but it's coming for you. And that's me saying that based on watching my mother get diabetes and start falling apart at 39. Her thyroid stopped working. She's heading to be insulin resistant. At 39. I am 32 this year. Like, it's what, 6-7 years away for me. So, tangent aside. So if you do low carb and your body is starting to run on ketones, what actually happens is your body takes your fat, because that's stored energy, right? So it takes your fat and it metabolizes it in the liver, and then it sends out primarily in the liver. There are a couple other places where ketones will come from, but primarily in the liver. It'll convert that to energy that can then be put into the cell's mitochondria and function. Now, there are some processes within the body that do need glucose, and what your liver will do at that point is turn the fat into glucose and send it to where it needs to go. Overall, I'd say running on diesel fuel is looking pretty good. So this diet was developed in the 1920s specifically for epileptic children. They realized that doing low carb to no carb, depending on the person, they could actually subvert most of what causes seizures in the brain. Because, and I literally just said this, your brain wants to run on ketones. 2/3 of what your brain does relies on ketones best. You're going to have less brain fog and all this, and they showed that it worked for epilepsy. And 100 plus years later, we still use that diet for epileptics. Now, what boggles my mind is that we didn't take this information and implement it to the population. And I know why, and I'm mad about it, and I will make another video on the history of the SAD diet, the standard American diet, when I am less mad about it. Like I said, you're limiting yourself to 50 grams of carbs a day to do this diet. which equates to about 5% of your daily intake. So you're keeping your carbs pretty low. Now, a normal, healthy individual can function on 100 grams of carbs a day or less. Now, the average American is doubling or tripling that number on a daily basis, which is why we have an obesity epidemic. Myself included. I am also categorized as obese, which is why I'm trying to change that, because I don't feel good. I'm not healthy. According to the keto diet, you should be getting 20% of your calories from protein. Now, I don't have a gallbladder, so I don't necessarily subscribe to the high fat, moderate protein balance. I do a higher protein, a moderate fat, and then I take ox bile with every meal that I'm doing higher fat. So my body doesn't have a bowel problem, and then I have to go hug a toilet for a couple hours while I have said problem. So, but a traditional keto diet is 20% protein and 75% fat. Now, I understand that fat is scary. It's been demonized for a generation. But what fat does, it acts as a satiety marker. So when you're always hungry, it's your body searching for sugar because it's run out of energy. But fat it hijacks that highway in a way that says, I've had enough fat, I am no longer hungry. And then your body will use your fat, your stored body fat, and then the fat that you've intaked will slowly work through your system, and whatever your body needs to pull from your protein and fat combination, it will, and whatever it doesn't will be discarded through, normal bodily function. So the other thing that it does, which I have 100% experienced in the last almost 30 days, is that it keeps your insulin level steady. So why people get hungry, grouchy, tired, all of the things you get when you after eat or when you're just ravenously hungry an hour and a half later, is your insulin is literally doing a roller coaster up tank, sky high tank. And it's super bad for you, and it's why you are super tired. It's why you're super grouchy. It's why you're needing that chocolate bar at 3:00 in the afternoon as a pick-me-up, why you're drinking 3 or 4 cups of coffee a day just to stay awake and focus on work. It's because your insulin is on a roller coaster and you're not controlling it. But when you eat low carb, you're not injecting your body with massive amounts of sugar, and it's keeping your insulin steady. And for me, with someone who suffers with chronic fatigue, there are some days when I still crash in the afternoon and take a nap, but I am more often than not now powering through my day because I'm not having that mid-afternoon crash. I am just able to power through my natural body's fatigue and keep going. Super fascinating. And your body really likes to only have about a tablespoon of sugar floating around in your body at any given time. Think about that. A tablespoon. That is so minuscule compared to what we typically do here in America. So what are the pros of this diet? I'm not going to focus too terribly on the cons because I am coming at this as a pro keto / carnivore human. And there is so much content out there that I don't need to go over it. Like, you can find that if you just look for it. So the pros are, it reduces your A1C, so it reduces your overall blood sugar content. And the A1C is a blood test that takes a look at the last 3 months of what your blood sugar's been doing to you. And I don't recall the number of actually diabetic, but it's over like a 5.7, I think it is, which is at the point of you being diabetic. Your sugar is so high that you are now becoming insulin resistant. It reduces your need for insulin because you're not creating highs and lows that require insulin. You are going to help with weight loss, which most people take weight loss medication, the GLP-1s, that literally put you in ketosis. That's literally what they're doing for weight loss. They reduce your visceral fat, which is that fat that surrounds and penetrates your organs. So a lot of people have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is literally you eating yourself into cirrhosis. No alcohol required. It's great at controlling your appetite. If you eat enough fat, you are not going to be hungry. There is evidence that suggests that it improves your lipid profiles, lowers LDL, which is your bad cholesterol, elevates your HDL, which is your good stuff, and lowers triglycerides. Now, depending on what you read and how you read it, who you listen to, that's all subjective. I'm about to go in for labs here next month, so I will be most of the way through my challenge when I get my labs taken, so we'll see how that looks. And funnily enough, they are starting to use the keto diet to starve cancer cells, because the cancer cells and abnormal cell growth feed on sugar. So if you starve the cancer and then use that as an addition to your treatment program, so if you're going through radiation or getting it cut out or whatever, if you use a keto diet in addition to all of the medically appropriate stuff that your doctor is telling you to do, again, not a doctor. I am just a normal human being doing a study of N of 1. There have been some studies that have shown that doing a keto diet does help fight cancer. So like I said earlier, all cells with a mitochondria can use ketones to complete every single process that they do throughout the day. So, diet directly impacts your microbiome in your gut, which is usually just gut health, which contributes to your overall health. So, when you eat it goes back to that old adage of you are what you eat, because what you eat feeds the gut bacteria and viruses that help break down food to give your body the nutrients it needs. So when you eat a whole bunch of sugar and junk food and highly processed stuff, you're feeding the bacteria that can thrive on that. When you eat healthy and low carb, low sugar, you are now feeding that bacteria. And there has been some suggestion that doing fruit, veg, and low carbs is feeding the correct balance of bacteria and virus that live inside you to help some of these chronic conditions like IBS, Crohn's, diarrhea, bloating, all of that just nasty stuff. The one thing that I learned that was super fascinating was the role of epigenetics. I hope I'm saying that right. which is how the genome can be modified after levels of gene expression. So basically, it is the study of how what can be modified through diet and exercise and environmental factors is, and how, if you're genetically predisposed to something, how that expresses if the right circumstances are met. So ketosis has been linked to improving gene regulation in the hypothalamus, which is where your hormones are made in the brain, and improve how you age. Not really sure how all of that works, just because I haven't done enough research. But given the fact that my mental health, even 30 days in, is improving so much, I believe that it's doing something to my brain in the right direction. I am actually to the point where I'm debating asking my doctor to lower my antidepressant because I'm not feeling like I need the dose that I'm on anymore. But I will 100% wait to do that until I'm a few more months in, just to make sure that it's not just a fluke. It improves cell function, cognition, disease progression, and disease progression in Alzheimer's. So it improves cell function because your cells run better on ketones. Your entire body does not need sugar to run. And what it does need, it will create. It improves cognition, so it helps eliminate brain fog. So, the classic mom brain, or gosh, you're just super forgetful. Some of that can clear up with the right diet. It's also starting to be linked to the slowing of things like dementia and Alzheimer's, which are all in the brain, which is super fascinating, just because my grandfather did just pass from dementia-related stuff. And I kind of wish that I had known this stuff years ago and I could have asked him to at least try this to be around longer. But sad story diatribe aside, so there's a couple of processes that contribute to ketosis that I 100% don't understand. But it is known to regulate the expression of multiple inflammatory markers within the genome. So it literally is an anti-inflammatory diet, which is why keto/carnivore is seen as an elimination diet that you do on for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then you start adding back in to see what you can or can't have. And most people feel pretty good, and then they find what they're sensitive to, and then they just cut that out, and then you can mostly go back to whatever diet you want after that, which is super awesome. So it has been linked to just overall improvement in health and aging. Take it or leave it. It's really up to you how you feel about it. So ketosis and weight loss, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing this diet so far. So this part was kind of super technically jargony, and I didn't understand a whole lot of what I was reading, but I was able to understand that there is a specific gene in the totality of the DNA strand that, depending on how it's mutated, will determine how you react to carbs. Like I said earlier, some people can function perfectly on 100 grams of carbs a day. They don't have any problems. And then there are people like me who really need to stick to a low carb, high protein, fat diet. My body will kick me out of ketosis if I'm over about 25 grams of carbs. That's just how my body works. It functions so much better around 15 grams of carbs a day. So yeah, so that's basically what I've learned so far. I am satisfied with the mechanics of ketosis, so I'm going to start researching how the keto diet plays into some of my chronic illnesses, specifically my POTS, because I did run across a small bit of research on the vagal nerve and keto, which the vagal nerve plays, in theory, it's not confirmed, plays a part in POTS symptoms, which is a nerve that runs down the side of your throat by your carotid artery. So we're going to do some more research. We're going to do some research on some protein, on carnivore, on wherever my curiosity takes me, basically. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something decently informational out of it, if not entertaining. If I'm wrong about anything, please let me know down in the comments. And what kind of diet and weight loss journey are you embarking on? I would love to hear all sides of it and why it works for you. Anyways, have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Bye.